Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 394 chainsaw. The customer complaint is that it just doesn't run right. So the customer stated that he had replaced the spark plug and he's been inside the carburetor and he rebuilt that. But it still doesn't run. So let's take a look inside the fuel tank like we always do first thing. And I noticed that the filter is old, but let's pressure test the fuel line. We're going to put our pressure pump on here. We're going to try to put 10 pounds of pressure into this fuel line, but we can't get anything to build. Needle keeps dropping back down to 0. And the reason for that is that there's a hole in the fuel line. So I'm going to have to replace the fuel line on this machine. But before I waste my time doing that, I want to make sure that the cylinder isn't scored. Now I'm not looking in here because it's got a bad fuel line. I'm looking in here because if the cylinder is scored, that's an expensive repair. And it doesn't pay to do anything else unless the customer is willing to put a new piston and cylinder in it, investigate why that happened, and everything that goes along with that. Cylinder looked good, so we're going to put our fuel line and a new fuel filter on here. But again, that's not what this video is about. Let's see if it runs with the new line on it. Keeping in mind that the customer rebuilt the carburetor. We got some fresh gas in it. I don't know why I'm checking the bar oil. I guess it's a habit. Well, what's going on here? There is fuel in the throat of the carburetor. And it just keeps coming. So it's not going to run like that. We're going to have to open up that carb and find out what's going on. First thing I want to do is dump the fuel out that I just put in there. What a mess. Let's get some of this fuel cleaned up a little bit here. Alright, cylinder cover comes off first. 3 Phillips head screws on this model, not 4 screws. Yeah, that's a lot of flooding going on there. So let's get this carburetor pulled. What am I doing? Looking for tools? There we go. First thing we do is loosen up the air filter holder. There's 2 screws on top that mount it down to the tray underneath the carburetor. And then you have the 2 screws that run through it and bolt the air filter holder, the carburetor, intake manifold, all that together. Fuel line comes off. Here's one of the screws. This sleeve over here on this other side, this blue piece. Pop that out of the way. And out comes our carburetor. Just a quick look inside at the piston skirt. Everything looks good there. Yikes. Alright, let's take a look at this carb rebuild the guy did here. First we're going to take off the metering diaphragm cover. And on this style carb, it's important to make sure that you clip that diaphragm underneath the metering lever. And he did that right. If that wasn't clipped in there, then that metering diaphragm would be pushing down on the lever all the time. And that was kind of what I was expecting to see, so it threw me off a little bit. Let's take a look at the needle. So that's a brand new needle. And I can tell because sometimes these things are shipped with some kind of protective schmutz on the rubber tip of the needle. And you can see I'm wiping it off of there. And I've seen it where there's been enough of that coating on those needles that it actually affected the ability of the needle to seal. This one didn't really look that bad, but there was some on there, so we cleaned it up. Let's take a look at the fuel pump side of the carburetor. Fail. That is assembled incorrectly. The pump diaphragm is supposed to go down first, and just one of them. You don't pick every gasket in the kit. So we put the pump diaphragm down. And I'm just examining it right now to make sure that it's actually the right one. And then our gasket and our cover. Yeah, we're good. Alright, we're going to put back together the metering diaphragm, that side of the carburetor. So first our spring goes in there. Here's our metering lever and our needle. We'll lay those in place, and then we'll tighten down the screw. Now we're going to want our gasket and our metering diaphragm. They're already stuck together. And then we'll put our cover on and screw it down. But I forgot to do something. Do you know what it was? Alright, so you saw we were in the carburetor, and now you saw we ran it, and it's running, it's just flooding out. Still the same problem. That's because I overlooked something. Did you catch what I missed? Yeah, I put the metering diaphragm in there properly, but I never checked the metering lever height. There's so many things wrong with this carburetor, and every time I saw something, like, yeah, bingo, got it. And I overlooked going through my regular steps on this one. So we're going to take the official Walbro gauge and we're going to check the metering lever height. And it is set way high. So we're going to have to lower it down. You know, usually these levers are set so that the top of the lever runs flush with the top of the carburetor. Meaning if you ran a straight edge across the top of the carb, that lever would just touch the bottom of the straight edge. And that's the way the customer set it up. But in this case, that lever is supposed to be the height of the bottom of that bowl there. That's why this gauge has got a step in it. So now we have our lever height set correctly. We'll get our diaphragm put in the little notch in the lever. Put this thing back together. And we're not changing anything else. The last time I ran it, it was flooding. This time, only difference is going to be that metering lever height. Well, let's see what it'll do. We're not going to choke it. Alright, so all we did was change the metering lever height and look at the difference in the way this thing runs. So that's all I'm going to have for you on the Husky 394 metering lever height adjustment. Thanks for watching. Later.